This week, we welcome Sam Elsom, co-founder and CEO of Sea Forests, a company that, together with Fonterra, MJ Bale and local farmers, is pioneering the use of seaweed-based stock feed additives to significantly reduce agricultural greenhouse gas emissions. Welcome, Sam.
Thanks, guys, very much for having me.
You've been trialling seaweed-based feed supplements in livestock for a number of years now. What are some of the key outcomes in regards to methane emissions and other benefits in general?
The original discovery came from a collaboration between CSIRO and James Cook University up in Queensland. They discovered that seaweed worked in basically completely abating methane from production from livestock. The bottleneck at the time was that there's no commercial supply of the seaweed. So Sea Forests, since starting about 3 years ago, had to retain, the world's leading scientists in the seaweed, as well as commissioning research at 3 of the leading universities. And so we had to go very quickly in developing methods for cultivation before we could commence trials. So we spent a good portion of our 3 years in developing cultivation techniques. And now it's only been 12 months that we've been working with a merino wool farmer called Kingston here in Tasmania, and a dairy farmer of Fonterra's. And so those 2 different trials have had great outcomes. It's more or less marrying with the results of the CSIRO's. And what we're looking at more closely there is, in terms of Fonterra, for example, we're looking at it from a food safety standpoint. So what's going to happen to the milk and the taste and the health of the animals. And so far we're really comfortable with the results, and we're continuing that work with Fonterra. With the other trial, which is the Kingston Wool Farm, where the fleece has been forward purchased by MJ Bale, we're looking at the impact on staple length and wool production. What will happen to the fibre quality over 12 months? So Simon, the farmer there, shore his sheep back in July of last year, and so then since then the animals have been feeding on Asparagopsis daily, and he's due to shear his sheep soon. So we'll have a look and analyse the impacts of the seaweed on fibre quality, which is really quite exciting.
And how did you discover the benefits of Asparagopsis in terms of reducing livestock's environmental footprint?
Professor Rocky Denise, who's now the Sea Forest Chief Scientist, was then at JCU, the university up in Townsville, and Nigel Tompkins, who's now with MLA, but at that time was with the CSIRO. So it was a collaboration between those 2 guys, exploring over 30 varieties of native seaweed and their impacts on methane production. And so, it was a very, very surprising result, actually, that this Asparagopsis, which is the seaweed that Sea Forest grows and the special seaweed that livestock producers everywhere have started to talk about, has a very unique chemistry. And so, what happened at the time, it's 98% abatement is the figure that they're talking about with that early research, which is now published. They thought at the time that their apparatus was broken, and so they reran the trial. It's so remarkable. And so, as I mentioned earlier, the bottleneck at the time was that there was no supply. But yeah, it was work done at the time by Rocky Denise and Nigel Tompkins as part of a broader research project in conjunction with MLA.
Going forward, will this be a commercial product available to all farmers? We
sure hope so. I mean, Sea Forest is working day and night on developing techniques for cultivation on land and also at sea. We've come, quite a long way in terms of our progress and developed methods for both methods of farming. We're hoping to have, be able to feed 100,000 head of cattle at least by this time next year.
Given this development has the potential to reduce methane emissions in livestock, has there been any government support to assist farmers?
There's been a lot of support by the government and by DISA, the Department of Innovation, Science, Energy and Resources. And, Sea Forest has received $1 million grant from the government to help commercialise its work. So I believe there is a lot of support. At the moment, it's not being subsidised, but I would also say that it's not at commercial scale just yet, although Sea Forest is working on it.
Do you expect consumers to pay a premium for sustainably produced beef and dairy in a potential 3-way win for farmers, consumers and the climate?
Yeah, so I think that there are many examples, with regards to say free range eggs, or chicken or grass fed beef, for example, where there is a price premium. But what's so amazing about the way the seaweed works, and basically the seaweed, as I mentioned earlier, has this unique chemistry, and there's a disruption that takes place in the production of methane, and that disruption, in fact, converts that which would have been expelled by the animal as a gaseous waste product into energy that the animal uses to grow. So you get this almost increase in feed efficiency or increase in productivity. So you're in fact delivering more profit to farmers as opposed to requiring necessarily a price premium. So it's a real win-win, as you pointed out.
Is this a further opportunity for Australia in terms of clean and green branding?
Absolutely. I think, Australian livestock producers already have a fantastic reputation internationally. And I think this just, really puts us at the forefront of, but not only innovation, but also leading the way in terms of reducing our environmental footprint. What we're talking about here is a 98% abatement. That's like wiping around 13% of our carbon emissions per year, and significant from livestock. So I think 75% of the emissions created on farm are those produced by animals through methane. And so we're talking about a meaningful impact on emissions reduction.
Thanks so much for your time today, Sam. A simple, natural solution in the climate challenge.
No worries at all. Thanks, guys.
Some incredible results, and what a great Australian sustainability story.
It sure is.